they've done a lot of studies on New Year's resolutions. Lots and lots of studies. And I'm going to tell you why New Year's resolutions might be the most difficult thing that you do in any given year. Statistically, they are completely and utterly unsuccessful. So they did a study with about 5,000 people, 4,800 people, represented here by these symmetrically and racially diverse, colorful people here, just to make sure that I'm good. And of everybody that they polled, 53% of them set a New Year's resolution, at least one. And then they followed up with them on January 15th. How many of those in this group that had set resolutions were still going strong 2 weeks later? Well, 2 weeks later, 49% of them were still going strong. Okay, so that's 51% have abandoned it in 2 weeks. That's not a lot of time, and already we're in trouble. So then they follow up with them again at Valentine's Day. Surely if you can make it 2 weeks, you could make it 45 days, right? They follow up with them at Valentine's Day, and by that point, there's only 17% that are left going strong. But of those 17%, we figured those are the guys that are into the personal development, motivational stuff. They're going to make it all year. If you can make it that far, you can make it all year. So they follow up with them again at the end of May 31st. Who's going to be the winner after May 31st? That lady. That one lady. That one. About, out of the 5,000 or so people that they polled, about 3% made it to May 31st. 3%. That's a really small number. It's a really small number. Now, they go on to say that not only are New Year's resolutions hard to keep, that they're even less effective than a goal that you would set any other time of the year. And I thought, wow, that's fascinating. Why is a January New Year's resolution less successful than a goal in September? The reason is because in New Year's time, January, there's a pressure. There's a little bit of pressure. Have you ever been on New Year's Eve and you're like, oh gosh, I got to come up with some resolutions. It's New Year's Eve. I haven't even set goals for this year. People feel pressured to set resolutions, and so they'll go ahead and set them without putting much thought into it. And it may not even be things that they really are passionate about or feel they need. They know that they have to set a resolution to maybe lose some weight and get healthy, or maybe it's to, whatever it is, start their new business or start working out more, or whatever it might be. They just almost feel an obligation, because if you haven't set a New Year's resolution, then you must not be a good person, because good people set New Year's resolutions. On top of that, the study found that people who had abandoned their New Year's resolutions had a decrease in how successful they felt and how happy they felt with their life. They wrote, the negative psychological effects of failure to adhere to New Year's resolutions is significant enough to question whether the practice should be endeavored at all. There's a greater risk to your personal development and self-esteem if you set a New Year's resolution and can't keep it than if you never set it at all. That's kind of crazy. Now, who would have thought? So you could take this lady's attitude. I don't call them New Year's resolutions. I prefer the term casual promises to myself that I'm under no legal obligation to fulfill. That's probably a safer bet. If you just go in knowing that it's going to be okay if I can't complete them. So I figured out, if there's been so much studies done on New Year's resolutions, I could go to Google and I can type in how to keep New Year's resolutions, and that will give me all the answers that I could share tonight to make sure that we don't fall into that lowly 97% that couldn't get it done. Now, luckily, there's just a few things that come up, like 76,300,000 results in half a second. Half a second. It found 76 million hits on how to keep New Year's resolutions. It's a popular topic. Probably because so many struggle with it. The good thing is you guys don't have to worry, because I read them all and I summarized them in my mind so that I can just pass on the essentials to you. But a lot has been written, and what you find as you start reading article after article after article is they all have a magic formula to make them work. And they'll all tell you the reasons why they fail, and none of them agree with each other. Which means that probably nobody has the right key to it, or at least it's not in the ways that we're normally thinking. But here's some of the top reasons that they fail. And these will look familiar if you've ever been to a class about goals. They're too vague. So if you say my New Year's resolution is to be healthy, okay, but what does that look like? What does that mean? How is that actionable? Or if it is to save the world, great goal, but too vague. They do too many. Right? I've got so many things in my life I want to change, and so we list 20 things that we're going to do this year, and it gets to be so much that we can't keep up with focusing on all of them. Or they're too big, lose 300 pounds in 3 months. That may not be feasible. Surgically, maybe. If I lost a leg and an arm, I could get a jump start. But they'll go with something too big. It's almost too much. Or they don't give themselves a time limit, right? No deadline. And very common, not sincere. Right? They put a goal because they feel they have to put that goal, maybe because they've been putting that same one for 5 years in a row and they haven't done it yet, so I better put that one again. And if they haven't done it 5 years in a row, it maybe just hasn't sunken in that that's something they're passionate about. Because there's a lot of things. If we were to list the things we wanted to change in all different areas of our life, I know I would have an extremely long list. There's probably 500,000 things that I would like to improve on, and I think that's everybody who's at least honest with themselves. There's things we want to get better at. And even if we're feeling really good about life, there's other things that we want to get better at. And if we don't feel like there's things we want to get better at, we should probably talk to our wife and they can tell us what we should get better at because they know. But between family and career and health and friends and relationships and spirituality, there's always something. And there's always a lot of somethings. And so they find that maybe the number one problem with New Year's resolutions and why they're so hard to keep is because of rabbits. That's what you were expecting, right? Because you knew it. I looked over there and Tim was mouthing rabbits before I even got to it. And he didn't say it out loud, so I appreciate you not blowing it. Rabbits. No, more the idea that if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. Right? It's an old proverb. If you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. If you set for yourself a huge number of goals all at once, or a huge number of resolutions, and you're trying to put a little bit of energy into one, a little bit of energy into another, a little bit of energy into the other, in the end, you've got none. You've got a bunch of half-completed or partially completed New Year's resolutions. And so we want to try and focus maybe on less. Now, has anyone seen the movie City Slickers? This is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen City Slickers, check it out. Billy Crystal, Jack Palance over there. So City Slickers is a story, if you haven't seen it, about a group of men who are in the middle of a midlife crisis. And they've all got different crises going on in their lives. And every year they do a trip, a guy's trip, to go do something fun. And one of the guys comes up and he wants to do this dude ranch. And they're going to drive cattle, and they're going to be cowboys, and they're going to go find themselves. And so they get out there on the range, and it's a comedy, so it's hilarious and what they're going through. And with them is that guy right there. That's Curly. Now, Curly is 187 years old and a cowboy still, and he could beat up any of them. He's the toughest guy at the whole ranch, and he can throw knives at guys and stick it right between their legs and almost, never mind. And he can do anything. This guy's just tough and grizzled, and he's got the leathery skin, and he's not very nice either initially. And Billy Crystal, if his character is like he is in real life, he's telling jokes all the time, and Curly's not too impressed. Well, as they're on this drive, going along with these cattle, he gets some time. Curly gets some time with Billy Crystal's character, and they talk a little bit about life. And Curly tells a little bit about his story and what's made a change for him. And in the end, Billy Crystal asks him, "Well, what's the secret?" And Curly has this line where he holds up his finger and goes, "One thing. One thing." And Billy Crystal goes, "Well, what is it? What's the one thing?" And Curly says, "That's what you have to find out." Right? His one thing is different than Billy Crystal's one thing, which would be different than maybe my one thing. What's the one thing that was important, the one thing that made a difference for him? One thing. So what if we could, instead of have a slew of New Year's resolutions, what if we could boil them down and have one thing, one focus? A quick story from my childhood. Pretty much anytime I speak, I'll tell stories, and they pretty much always make me look bad. And I guess that's just my style. I didn't intend that, but there's just all my stories. I look bad in all my stories. But when I was a kid, my brother Justin and I were on a basketball team coached by my dad and my uncle. Now, my dad and my uncle are the two most competitive men I have ever met in my life, especially when it came to sports. And for them, everything is sports. So they are always competitive. And so if their kids were going to be on a basketball team, we weren't going to leave it to the random selection of the YMCA to just form a team. We had to scout and recruit the greater Mesa area for the best basketball players for our YMCA basketball team, which we did. And we put together the all-star team. Now, you couldn't just create your own team. We had to take it to a next level. We had to make sure that everybody signed up at the same time and requested the exact same coaches, and we had to do it so fast that the other kids who weren't very good but who knew us and wanted to be on the team would get blocked out and couldn't get onto our team. These were our friends, but they weren't at our level of basketball proficiency. So we assembled the all-star team of Mesa, and we called ourselves the Exterminators, and our infamous cheer, 2468, who do we exterminate? Ruthless at 9 years old. Ruthless. And so we practiced hard, and we practiced drills that other teams didn't practice because we wanted to intimidate them when we came on the court. So we're doing the three-man weave, and we're doing special layups, we're doing all kinds of great stuff. Well, we're at practice one time, and typical in basketball practice, you'll do layup drills to warm up. And so we had done our right-hand layups, which is easy for most of us, we're all right-handed. And then you switch over and you have to do layups left-handed, which is for me my offhand. And for a kid, a layup with your opposite hand is dreadful. You can make your right-handed layups look so beautiful, and your left-handed comes up and it looks like you're like tripping yourself and you're just trying to chuck it up there 50 feet from the, it's just horrible. So my left-handed layups were apparently the most atrocious of anybody on the team, because my ultra-competitive uncle pulls me aside and says, "Kris, those are the worst left-handed layups I have ever seen in my life. You will not play another quarter for our team until you make 10 left-handed layups in a row. This is Tuesday, and I have until Saturday." Now, he knows that I love basketball, and I wanted to play really bad, and I know that he's serious because he's ultra-competitive, and we are the Exterminators, and he could not have a lesser player that can't shoot left-handed layups on the team, or he was just being really mean because he was my uncle. One of the two. So I'm panicking, and how many left-handed layups do you think I went and shot in my driveway between Tuesday and Saturday? About 50 million. I kept track. I think it was 50 million and two. Something like that. It was all day, left-handed layups, left-handed layups, left-handed layups. I had to make these because I wanted to play in the game. And it got close, and I hadn't had 10 in a row yet. I'd gotten really close, but I was getting better, and it comes to Saturday. And so I'm sweating it, and I'm thinking, you know what? He's just trying to scare me. He's not going to follow through on it. Sure enough, we go to warm-ups. We're getting ready to go. Everyone goes over to the bench. "Hey, Kris, got those layups?" "Yeah, I think so." "Okay, come on over here, give me the ball. Go shoot my first one." Miss the first one. He's like, "Well, it only starts as soon as you make one. Then the counter starts." Go up, make the second one. And the third and the fourth, I make 10 layups in a row, left-handed layups. Biggest victory of my life, definitely to that point, probably to today. Biggest victory of my life. 10 left-handed layups in a row, and I got to play. I've thought back so much about that as an adult, and thought so much about, either how much he cared and knew what he was doing, or because he challenged me and he was being mean, and then I took it, but for whatever reason it was, in a 5-day period, I was able to do something, completely change how I was able to play the game. Now, to this day, I play basketball still, 4 times a week. I love basketball. To this day, I am better close to the basket with my left hand than my right hand. If I'm ever around the basket, I switch to my left. I have a softer touch with my left hand for some reason than my dominant right hand. And that skill has served me better than any other basketball skill I've ever had in my life, is being able to switch to a hand that people don't expect you to shoot with and shoot with my left hand. Right? All because rather than my coach, who was my uncle, saying, "Kris, you stink at a lot of things. You need to get better at this, 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 and this." He said, "You know what? Here's one thing. I want you to focus on this one thing. And he figured if I could learn that one hard thing, that would serve me for forever. Now, interesting side note, have you ever had the opportunity to go back and watch videos of yourself as a kid? And do you remember how cool you thought you were? And then you watch the video and you're like, wow. So we were helping my parents move, and I come across VHS tape of the Exterminators YMCA basketball team. Now, when the Exterminators, our YMCA basketball team, we went undefeated, and we would blow people out, and if the score could be 99-10, and we would try and push it to 100-10. You know, it was ruthless. It was horrible. And I assumed, since we were so good, that our YMCA team would reach junior high, and the junior high would say, well, these are the best. You're the team. You are now our junior high team. I expected that because I had always been on this winning team. And it came time for tryouts, and I was thinking this is going to be a breeze. And I didn't make the A team, and I didn't make the B team. I made the C team. You don't make the C team. You get dropped onto the C team because they don't have a D team. That's it. The C team is the lowest of the low, and you don't even have to try out for it. They just go through, and everybody who's left at the end, you're on the C team. So I was on the C team, and I remember going home and hiding in a closet and just crying and crying and crying because I couldn't understand. I thought we were the best players that there was to be had in Mesa. A very small world I had then. I didn't even consider that there were other places in Mesa I had never seen. I thought we were it. I never understood how bad I was and how I got on the C team until we helped my parents move, and I found the VHS tape of the Exterminators, 1988. Perfect. Let's check this out. And I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, there goes Johnny. Oh, he's so good. Who's that slow kid? I remember we had a slow kid, but maybe we did that one year. I don't know. It's kind of awkward. And then after a while, I'm like, where's me? Oh crap. I'm the slow kid. I'm that really uncoordinated slow kid that I kept wondering how that kid got on our team. The whole time, that was me. And it was a sad realization, but a lot of clarity came in that moment when I realized that explains not making any team I ever tried out for after that point. But in the long run, I still get to play basketball. I still get to enjoy it, and I still get to use my left hand. I spent 5 days on something that served me for forever. One thing that possibly has brought me more joy than 95% of the other things that I've ever done, because I get to use that all the time, because somebody challenged me to focus on the one thing. Well, what if we could take all of our goals and all of our New Year's resolutions, and we could boil them all down into just one word? What if you could make it into one word for your whole year? There's like a theme. And I got the idea from a book. It's called One Word That Will Change Your Life, written by a guy named John Gordon. Excellent book. But here's the idea of the one word. Is we have a lot of things that we are planning for our year, things that we want to accomplish. And sometimes checking off the list and fighting for those things just gets overwhelming. It gets a little bit hard. So what if we could make it easier? So I have some copies, but Staples ran out of paper. Staples, like the paper people, ran out of paper when I went to make copies. But if you can go to my website and you go to downloads up here, I'll get you to a worksheet that'll help you find a way to figure out your personal one word for the year. But I'll walk you through it right now. There's 3 steps. The first step is called look in. Right, this is when you ask yourself, what do I need? What do I want for this year? What are the things that I'm really passionate about? And you start writing them down. You can look at things that you're struggling with, things that you want to get better at, something new that you want to start this year. What is it that this year would make it successful for you? If you could accomplish these couple of things this year, what would be considered success? The second step is called look up. Right? You take a couple of days after you've written down some of your goals for the year, some things that you'd want, some things that you need. Now you start looking for inspiration. Right? Wherever you go, whether it's prayer or meditation, I like to be out hiking in the desert. Wherever you are that gets you some inspiration, now that you've thought through all these things that you need, let it soak in and start thinking of some words. Make a list of words that could possibly be a theme word for you for the year. You write them all down, and then the third step, pretty easy, is called look forward. You pick one of those words. You look at that list and you find one that just grabs you. Now, I've done this with so many people, And when you go through that process, you'll have your list of words, and something won't be there, something won't be there. And as you think about them for a couple of days, all of a sudden either one from that list or one you hadn't even thought of will just pop in. And when you find your word, or when it finds you, it's like light bulb. You just know it. You know when you found your word. When you look forward, you say, okay, if that's my theme word, if that's my theme word for the year, what's that going to look like? What's that going to do for me? How am I going to apply that? Now, this has been really fun for us. These are my words from past years. The first year I did it was 2016, and I picked the word matter. The year after that was give. Last year was speak, because I have so much fun speaking. I wanted to look for more opportunities to speak, which came about and was fantastic. So I have these hanging in my office. I've done it with my staff at work, where they all pick a word. It's actually their favorite staff meeting of the year. It happens for us in January, and it's when we get to reveal our word for the year. And we share with each other why we picked that word for us. If you're part of a team or a part of a group or an organization and you want to do something really, really fun, try this one-word project with them. You get to learn so much about the people you work with or the people you live with, because they'll pick a word and they'll describe it to you, and you'll realize that they may have aspirations that you didn't know about, or they might have struggles that you didn't know about. And it really starts to weave and connect a group together to be able to share these words together. There's basketball teams that have done it, schools that have been doing it. The first year, like I told you, my word was matter, and I wrote a little bit on there about things I had been thinking about and why that came up to be my word. I wanted to make sure that every time I talked to somebody, did I make a difference? Did I build them up? Did our conversation matter to that person? Did I do anything to make it worth their while to have a conversation? Did I take opportunities to listen so that I could make a difference for them? I wrote the quote, "Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least." And then I wanted to make sure that my priorities were in the order of what mattered most to me. So my family, church, and my profession. So that when decisions come up and I need to decide where to put my time, my energy, where I need to be on a given night, I don't have to struggle with it. I know that what matters most to me is my family, and that's going to be my first choice. I know that for me, profession, as much as I love being a dentist and a speaker, that's going to have to give way to my family if my family needs me, or religion for me. That year when I picked matter was the year that I did my first dental mission trip to the Dominican Republic. We traveled up into the sugarcane fields, basically in the middle of nowhere, to where these kids have been they're about the fourth generation living on these sugar plantations. The company owns the sugar plantation. They bring the workers in. You get a house that you can pay off, but you can never really pay it off. You just keep working for them, but the interest on the house grows more than what they pay you to pay off the house. So basically it's slavery hidden in a free house. So there's these little villages that have been built by these sugar companies over the years, and then another company comes and buys it out, but the workers stay, and those workers have kids, and they live in the house. And so these kids are about the fourth generation to live in this same little village in the middle of nowhere. Very few of them ever get out. In the Dominican Republic, the only way really to get out is baseball. Baseball is huge, and so they all play baseball. That's their one hope, is that they're good enough at baseball to get out of their little village that they live in, make it. Every Major League Baseball team has a facility in the Dominican Republic, so they're scouting for these kids because it's such a passion there. Well, we travel up into these sugarcane fields, and the goal is to fix every kid's teeth in that village in one day. And so we usually have 6 or 7 dentists and support staff, assistants, dental hygienists. It's about 50 of us wheel in on this bus and set up this clinic, and we just go until we've seen everybody. And sometimes that goes till late at night, but we try and see all of them. I love being with the kids. I chose that place, and I chose to do that year because I'd picked the word matter. Does what I do matter in the world? Is there somewhere where I can make a huge difference? We also started a charity event which helps fund that trip called Rock the Smile that we do every year. Which I'd always wanted to start a charity event to raise money for charities, so we did that year. So that word for me, those are things I'd been wanting to do for years before, but I could have set those as goals, and I might have accomplished them. But I set the goal that I wanted to matter and make a difference, and all of a sudden, guess what happened? The other goals took care of themselves, because my word was the embodiment of my other resolutions, my other goals. We do this every year with my kids. And this is one of my favorite things that we do. I have like 7 successes as a dad and 4,000 failures as a dad. This is one of the successes because I don't show all the failures. I show the successes because I feel good about myself. We do this every year. So this is just 2 weeks ago. Here's what we do with the kids. I tell them ahead of time, hey, we're going to do our one-word thing. This year, actually the last 2 years, they come to me and say, Dad, when are we doing the one-word thing? We buy blank canvases, and then we have one night where we talk a little bit about it, and then with zero coaching, they pick their own word, they do their own thing. Everybody, we do paints and pens, everyone designs it, and then we come together and share why we picked that word. Now, if you want to see something really cool, and you want to realize how amazing kids are and how insightful they are, watch some of the words that they pick. It humbles me every year. So this is our family with our words. So mine is learn. I brought mine. Mine's learn because I realize that there's things that I'm good at, but I want to be better at. Like that quote, good is the enemy of great. There's things that I've always just, I'm a pretty good speaker. I can kind of wing it, but I don't want to wing it. I want to put together great presentations that make a difference for people, that they remember when they leave. I don't want to just be entertainment for a little while. So I want to learn to do that better. Plus, I have a couple of relationship goals. I want to learn to be a better spouse. My wife, hers it says create right there. She, at the end of last year, started a professional organizing business because it serves her OCD to be able to go into people's homes and organize it, which is great because it takes the pressure off me because she's trying to always get me to organize my spaces. So now she has a creative outlet. But she wants to create. She wants to learn how to create more content for her Instagram and create great spaces for people to use. It gets fun when you get to the kids. My oldest son there, Colin, he picked work. Now, Colin's my son who, I love Colin, struggles with school. Struggles with school, always has. A little bit of a learning disability. Math is horrible for him. Math is a different language for him. He just really struggles with it. He's learned that for him to get through school, for him to graduate high school, he's going to have to put in more effort than other kids. He's just going to have to. And that's not his natural inclination. Some kids struggle in school, but they have this amazing work ethic, and then they write books later on in life when they're bazillionaires. Okay, so he struggles in school, but doesn't have the work ethic. And I don't know if he'll write a book later on to be a bazillionaire, but he recognized on his own, I have to work harder. Okay? Which I love because I was always afraid that he would grow up and say, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, because I can't keep up with some of the other kids. And somehow along the way, he learned he had to work harder. So that's why he picked work. He said, I've got 3 years of high school left. I just need to work. My second son, Porter, there, he chose Lyft. He chose Lyft, which I thought was really interesting. I said, well, why did you pick Lyft? He said, well, number one, Colin's bigger and stronger than me, and I want to get bigger and stronger so I can fight him better. So he has a picture of a little guy lifting weights in there between the F and the T. But also, he said, it works double for me because I think it would be really cool to find kids at school that aren't doing well in school, who don't have a lot of friends, and bring them in and be friends with us and lift them up. Now, how cool is that? He's 11 years old. I think that's amazing. My third son over there, Evan, he wrote, if you can't quite see it because he got really decorative, but it says kind. Now, Evan's one of the more kind kids I know. He's a really sweet kid. He'll hug anybody, anytime. So I thought, wow, why did you pick kind? And he's like, I have so many friends, but I could be better friends. There's some kids I could be better friends. I'm like, okay, well, are they in your class? He's like, yeah, they're in my class. And I drew all of them on here. So he has stick figures that represent 6 or 7 kids in his class that he thinks he needs to be more kind to. And he's 9 years old. I think that's really cool. And then my little girl here, little princess, she's 5. She picked the word talent. She picked the word talent. I thought, why would you pick the word talent? I mean, that's odd for a 5-year-old. I mean, last year hers was happy, and the year before that it was, what was it? Pretty or princessy or all the other things she usually picks. She picked talent. I said, wow, Lily, why did you pick talent? She's like, I think I have lots of talents that I'm not using. And I said, I totally agree. I think that's amazing. And what's been fun with her is ever since she picked talent, every day she's been coming home and my wife will put on YouTube videos that show kids how to draw. And she'll draw. She'll follow along and draw. And I get home from work the other day and she's jumping up and down with a stack of papers and he goes, I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I'm an artist. Right? She had developed a talent because that's a word that she had picked. Now, who would have ever thought that my offspring could be so insightful? I mean, just genetics alone would say that they'd be a little slow and maybe wouldn't get stuff very quickly. Kids are amazing. right? They're amazing. And they picked up on this so quick, and they found a word for them that made a difference. And I hope that we keep doing that. It's one of those things that's just been great for our family. One of the other great things, actually, I just noticed in this picture, was I handmade this sign that says, "Come, let us eat tacos and talk about happy things." That's like my motto. Eat tacos and talk about happy things. Now, why does this work? Right? Why does it work to focus on one word? How can that be better than having 7 very specific, well-defined goals? And we know about SMART goals. Well, everyone talks about SMART goals. Well, how can SMART goals be more of a detriment than a one word? Well, it's because of this domino effect, I think. So the domino effect says that a domino take your standard domino, which is maybe 2-3 inches tall. A domino that's that size, you knock it over. It's able to knock over a domino next to it that's 50% bigger. Up to 50% bigger. It has enough potential energy that you can knock it over and knock over one that's 50% bigger. Being as thus. So they would get bigger, bigger, and bigger, 50%. So if you started with one 2-inch domino, the 10th domino would be as tall as Yao Ming, who was the 7'6" basketball player from China. Those are normal-sized people, I think. Well, he's huge, right? He's a big dude. Okay, so it would only take 10 dominoes to go from 2 inches to 7'6". The 18th domino would be as tall as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. 18 dominoes from 2 inches to that tall. The 23rd domino would be as tall as the Eiffel Tower. The 31st domino would be as tall as Mount Everest. The 57th domino is when you cover the distance from Earth to the moon, and the 81st domino would get you to the next closest star. 81 domino, you buy a set of dominoes like in the 100, right? So the 81st domino, as they grow 50% at a time, would get you to the next star. So when we set goals, when we pick our word, right, we reach for the stars, we want all the great things, but it has to start with the first domino. Right? Reach for the stars, but knock over the first domino. And if the first domino is something small and easy, let it be small and easy. It might be as easy as one word, one theme word for the year. Because really, if you look at the way we've been doing New Year's resolutions, it's almost like Mission Impossible. Right? You remember Mission Impossible, the TV show? And you got this team together, and then they receive this video file that says, your mission if you decide to accept it. And they have to go on these impossible missions. Setting goals is kind of like impossible missions. It's really hard. You have to get the right team together, the right people. You have to get a lot of things in place to accomplish these great missions. But the cool thing about Mission Impossible was they finished every mission. There never was an impossible mission. So it's not even a great name for the show. It should have been Mission Almost Impossible. But somehow they find a way. But what did they always start with? Here's the problem. Nuclear bomb is coming by Saturday. Okay, what do we need to do first? We need to track where it's at right now, or we need to assemble the team. They had a first goal that they needed to accomplish. And once they could do that, they could move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Maybe the one thing that helps us have our best 2019 ever, our best year ever, is just breaking it down to one word that we can feel good about, passionate about, that can be a theme for us for the year. Remember, it was first taught in the Bible by John when he said, "In the beginning was the Word." Right? In the beginning of the word. Let the beginning of this year be a word. Take all of your New Year's resolutions that you might have and see if there's a theme, a common thread running through them that could be a one word that you could focus on, that you can make into something. And then let that one word build and build and build. Let it become who you are. And when you get to the end of this year, I can almost guarantee you that you'll look back and say, you know what? I accomplished this, 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 and this. I didn't set 7 resolutions and complete half of one. I focused on just this word for me, and I accomplished 4, 5, 6 of these things. They just happened. You wake up one day and you realize, look how far I've come, and I wasn't even focusing on that. I wasn't even beating myself up when I couldn't keep it. I didn't let myself fail and then feel the guilt of not doing it and then just, I'll do it next month or next year. Right? Let's focus on who we are on the inside, because we can set a lot of goals. I'll never forget, and I'll just end with this story. I have a friend whose goal from the time that we were in college, he wanted to be the best cosmetic dentist in the world. I mean, he's the best in the world. And he did fantastic in school, got into a great dental school, came back, and he is a fantastic cosmetic dentist. He's probably one of the best in the valley. And he's accomplished all of these goals. He would have success, right? By the standard he was looking at, he would have success. And he and I are sitting next to each other at a conference. It's a 3-day conference, and they brought in an inspirational speaker, Tony Robbins. So we know who Tony Robbins is. And Tony Robbins is up on stage, and he has a very captivating way of speaking, and he's talking about focusing on what matters the most. And he's talking about, what good is it to have everything if you lose your family? What good is it to have everything, accomplish everything if on the inside you've accomplished nothing? And I look over, and my buddy is like he's seen a ghost. Like the color has literally drained from his face, and he's just like a statue. And I realized at that moment, he's having that aha where he realized, I spent so much focus and time on this list of goals to become the best that there was, that I hadn't spent a lot of time developing relationships with my kids, haven't spent a lot of time becoming something on the inside. And no matter what you have on the outside, if you haven't taken the time to develop it on the inside, isn't worth anything. He walked out of the Tony Robbins lecture early and went straight to the airport halfway through the conference, flew home to be with his kids, because he had that moment where he realized, I should have been focusing on something better and something more meaningful. And so as we go through the one-word project, the one-word experiment, make sure that it's something that helps you grow internally and is something important, something that will serve you like learning a left-handed layup, where if I could learn this one skill this one year, it's going to serve me for years and years to come. And then share it with people around you. Pretty much everybody I share this with has such a great time doing it that they can look back and tell me their words from previous years. But let it all start with one word. Let it start with one first domino, and I guarantee you'll have a great 2019. Thanks so much, guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks up there in the cheap seats. Thanks for being here.